मम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोर्श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जन्माद्यस्य तन्मयादितरतश्चार्थेषु भिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्म हृदयादिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, chapter number 14, verse number 11. We are reading the story of King Vena, the son of Anga, who was a very cruel king and very irreligious, and declared that he himself is God, and told all the subjects in his kingdom that nobody should worship anyone else except him, because he is the Supreme Person. And everybody, whoever he or she may be, all their powers are invested in him. So no sacrifices, no charities, nothing. So the sages, obviously, who had installed him as the king, they themselves got into trouble. And that's why it is said that it was just like feeding milk to a snake, which increases its poison and makes him more dangerous. So Vena was made the king by the sages, although the ministers were not in favor of it. And now they themselves felt that they had made a mistake. So now they had a meeting what to do about it. And they decided that maybe they should first give him advice not to do such a thing. So this is what is said here, that Nirupitah prajapala sajighansati vai prajaha tathapi santvaye mamum nasman tatpatakam sprashet. So he says that we are the one who have appointed him as the king, and now he is exploiting and actually killing the people. So he says that we should try to pacify him and correct him. This way we will not get the sin. Otherwise they are also responsible for it. So if they give him advice and he changes his behavior, then they are not taking the portion of sin which he is committing. But if you appoint somebody and that person is doing a religious thing, then you also are implicated in that. But if he does not listen to them, then also they are not implicated, because what can they do? They can only instruct. So it means that the sages, they are feeling responsible for people, and they are also feeling responsible that the king is not behaving properly. So this is what they decided. Santvena uppattihi prabodhyam. So Krishna Chakravarti says that we will pacify means that by logic we will try to give him instruction. Tatha sati asman papam nasprishet. Then we will not become sinful. Annatha tu papam sprishedeva tyahu. Otherwise we will also get the sin. Tat patakam vidvadhi iti. So this is, they considered. Tad vidvadbhir asad vritto veno asmabhi krito nirpaha sankvito yadi no vacham negrihishyatya dharmakrit. So they are saying that we will go and speak to him. Actually we ourselves knowingly made him the king, and if he does not listen to us, then what we will? Then we have a solution. Then someone does not take that advice or solution, then what are we going to do? We must also have an alternative. Otherwise, why would he listen to them? So then they are saying that Loka Dhikkara Sandagdam Dahishyame Swatejasa. That if he does not, since he is very irreligious and impious, so they are already considering that he may not listen to our advice. He says then we will burn him by our power. He says that although he is already burnt by the criticism of people, but we will also finish him off. Evam adhyavashayenam muniyo gudhamanyavaha upavarajyu bruvan venam samtutvacha samah. So considering like this, they went to the king, and their anger was hidden. They did not show that they are angry at him, because if they show that they are angry, then the king may not even receive them. So it is said here that Gudhamanyava, that they hid their anger, and then they spoke to the king, trying to please him and satisfy him with nice words. So this is what they spoke to him. Nripavarya nibodhaitat te vigyapayam bho ayuhu sri bala kirtinam tavatata vivardhanam. So the sages said that, O best of the kings, please listen to us, what we have to say, and what we are going to say will increase your life, your beauty, your strength, your fame. Because if one is righteous, religious, pious, then his age also increases. And if one is doing impious deeds, then one also loses one's lifespan. Dharma acharitah punsham vangmanakaya buddhibihi lokan vishokan vitratyatha ananta nasanginam sate ma vinashe prajanam kshema lakshanaha yasmin vinashte nripatir aishwaryadavarvohati. So he says that if a person performs religious acts by one's mind, speech, body and intelligence, then he attains heavenly planets where he lives happily without disturbance. And if he performs these religious activities without any material desire, because you can perform religious activities with material intention that you want to go to heaven and enjoy there, or you can do it as service to God. So if one does not have any material desire, then one attains moksha or liberation, and one does not have to take birth again. Otherwise one goes even to heaven, then from heaven one has to come down and again take birth. So they are convincing him that if you are asangi, if you do not have any attachment for any material things, then anantyam asanginam, your result becomes unending, which is liberation. So therefore he says that we do not want that you destroy dharma, because dharma is beneficial for people. So dharma means which maintains a system, that is called dharma. It's like if you have some organization, then some rules, some principles are there. If everyone follows them, then the organization functions well. There is a state, there are state laws. So this is the dharma of people. So similarly, there is bigger dharma which also takes care of the nature. The state is only considered about one's own state or kingdom, not the whole world or universe. But these religious principles which are prescribed in the Smriti and in the Vedas, they are designed in such a way that people can live happily without creating an imbalance in the society as well as in the nature and the universe. So therefore everything remains balanced. Otherwise the human activities, they cause imbalance. In the whole creation of the universe, human beings are the ones which create imbalance. Usually other species, they don't cause imbalance. They keep on balancing each other. They survive one eating another one. And therefore the balance remains. And human beings, they have the ability to cause disturbance. So dharma therefore is specifically for them. The other species, they follow their dharma naturally. They don't transgress, they don't have the ability to transgress it. Human beings are the only one who have the ability to transgress or follow. So when some facility is given, it has both purposes, that you can make advancement or you can go down. When you have power, you can use it and you can misuse it. When you have some facility, you can utilize it properly or improperly. So human beings have the special facility or ability of acquiring knowledge, and they also can misuse that knowledge to exploit others or to serve others. So therefore dharma is designed for human beings. The purpose of dharma is to maintain. That's what dharma means. Dharte dharyate cha iti dharma pratyate. That which holds and that which should be maintained, that is called dharma. So in the scriptures it is said that if you protect dharma, then it will protect you. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. That if you maintain dharma, then it will maintain you. So dharma is that which should be maintained, and dharma is that which maintains you. So it works both ways. That's what they are saying, that if you maintain dharma, then it will bring benefit to you. And then if you work against dharma, then you will fall down from your position. So this is the actual purpose of dharma. It is for our benefit only that we should follow it. So Rajan aswadhamatebhyas chauradibhya prajanirpaha rakshan yatha balim grinnan vidapretya cha modate. So he says that a king who protects people from cruel ministers, thieves, dacoits, and takes taxes from people, which is according to the rules of the scriptures, then he is happy in this world and also in the next world. So this is the duty of the king. One of the principal duty of the king is that he should protect people. And for this he can take tax and utilize that to maintain the society. But if he is not doing this, then he will fall down from his position. यस्य राष्ट्रे पुरे चैव भगवान् यज्ञपुरुषः पूज्यते स्वेन धर्मेण जनैः वर्णाश्रमन्वितैः तस्य राज्ञो महाभाग भगवान् भूतभावनः परितुष्यति विश्वात्मा तिष्ठतो निज शासने. He says that the kingdom or the capital in which the varnashram system is followed and people thus worship the Supreme Lord by following their own duties, then the king is doing service to God by this way. So Lord is very much pleased by him, because Lord, he is the protector of everyone and protector of all beings. So if people are following religious duties properly in the kingdom, then that king is very pleasing to God, because that's why he is considered as a representative of God. This is the prime duty of the king, not to make people atheistic or impious or religious, but actually to make them believe in God and follow their varnashram dharma, which is for the pleasure of the God. Varnashram acharvata purushena purnam Vishnu aradhyate pantha nanyat tattvashakaram. So varnashram dharma was originally designed to worship the Lord. So Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, they have their respective duties, and if they follow them properly, then that is worship of God. But for that there has to be peace in the society, and people have to have the facility to follow their duties properly. But here the king himself became an obstruction. He said that nobody is allowed to do any of these religious activities. So naturally he is going against dharma. and therefore he is not pleasing to the Lord. Tasmin tushte kim aprapyam jagtam ishwareshware loka sapalaha ho tasmai ye tasmai haranti balimadrika. So, Lord, if he is pleased, then there is nothing which remains unattainable. So Lord is called Ishvara Ishvara. He is the supreme controller of all the controllers. There are various controllers in the universe, but there is a supreme controller. And if he is satisfied, then life is successful. So he says that even the great personalities like Indra, Chandra, and Surya, they all worship the Supreme Person. And you can also worship him by following the religious principles. Tam sarvalokamar yagya sangraham traimayam dravymayam tapomayam yagyai vichitraya vito bhavayate rajan swadeshanu rodhamarhasi. So he says that Lord Krishna or Hari, he is the controller of all the planets, all the protectors and all the sacrifices. He is the personification of the three Vedas. He is also manifest as the objects used for sacrifice. He is the austerity personified. And if the residents of your country, they worship this Lord by performing sacrifice, then you should help them and remain favorable to them. You should not become an obstacle to them. So this is advice. Te bhavaya tavaiva bhute yajto yajana kartim swadesh vartino janan anurodham tatraiva yajne pravarti. So they are saying that if the people of your kingdom, they perform sacrifices, then it is for your welfare also. You will also prosper by this. They will prosper and you will prosper. But if you stop them, then everybody has to suffer, including you. Yagyena yusmad vishye dujatibhir vitayamaneena suraha kalahare swishta satushta pradishanti vanchitam tadhelanum narasi viha cheshtatam. Says when the Brahmanas will perform sacrifice in your kingdom, then being pleased by their worship, the Devas, who are manifestations of the Supreme Lord, they will give all the desired fruits. Therefore, O King, do not stop the religious duties and do not disrespect the Devatas. So this is the Vedic system which was set up at the beginning of creation by the Creator himself. So Sahagya Prajasrishta Purovacha Prajapati Nena Praswadhanisha was taste Kamadok. That in the beginning of creation, Lord created people and also the sacrifice, and he told people that you do this sacrifice and this will please the Devas, the demigods. And then when they are pleased, they will supply all your needs. So this is the Vedic system, that you please Devas, and if you are just interested in enjoying, then enjoy in this manner. If you please the Devas, and then you get the objects of your enjoyment. But if you want to enjoy independently, by disregarding the Devas, then this will not continue for very long. So just like now, there is economic problem everywhere. Even the so-called rich countries or not so rich countries, advanced countries, everywhere there is economic problem. The rich, poor people think that the rich countries are very happy. You go there also people are suffering. And everybody is worried what will happen. So this is because people are trying to exploit the nature by technology and not caring for the nature. So these devas are those who are in charge of material elements. And if they are not satisfied, then they don't supply our needs. And you have to work very hard. And still you are not happy. So then everybody is in anxiety. So there is always economic crisis, and then there is always a fear of more economic crisis. There are always prediction that economy is going to collapse, this economy will collapse, that economy will collapse. The whole thing is about economy. No one is talking about dharma. It is already collapsed. So when dharma collapses, then everything collapses, because it is dharma which maintains. So this artha and kama cannot continue without dharma for a very long time. So Vedic system was to have artha and kama on the basis of dharma. And then you can continue for a long time. So this is the teaching which they want to give here. So we say that if you disrespect them, then you will suffer. But Vena, he did not listen to him. So after hearing this, this is what he spoke. So when a person is very proud, then he cannot take advice. That's why if you want to learn something, it is prescribed that you be humble. Because a proud person cannot learn anything. So as Krishna says that if you want to study, if you want to learn, then tadvidhi pranipatena pariprasana, say and become humble and do service. So proud person cannot learn any good thing. So Vena was very proud, he was king and atheistic. He was not atheist, actually he believed that he is God himself. So he was solving the problem of people. It's like sometimes there are people who believe that Jesus Christ. So he believed that he was God. So when he heard it, he started laughing. He said, Balishabat yuyam va adharme dharma maninaha ye vritti dampatim hitva jaram patim pashate. So very interesting how same thing can be seen from different angles. So you see how the sages were speaking, how they looked at Vena, and how Vena is looking at them. He says, you are childish. They are all great sages. Everybody respects them. And Rigu was there, who is son of Brahma. He is the same one who even went to test Brahma, Shiva and Vishnu. So, what he is calling them, he says, Balisha. He says, they are childish. Why? He says, you are so childish that adharme dharma mani. That what is irreligious, impious, you are calling that as religion, dharma. What is poison, you are calling them that as nectar. What is to be avoided, you are asking me to follow that. Says, ye vrittidam patim hitva jaram patim pasute. He says, you are just like an unchaste wife who abandons, disregards the husband who is bringing money, working outside to maintain her and the whole household, and has a relationship with a paramour. So he says that you are just like that, because I am the king and I am the one who is supplying all the food, all the water, all the vegetables, flowers, juices, everything is coming from me. And instead of worshipping me, you are asking, worship this, worship that. He says, you are just like that unchaste woman who is interested in someone else other than the husband. Right? So he says, what do you expect me to follow you and become crazy, childish, stupid, ignorant? So this is how he is thinking. He is thinking, I am the king. Everything is happening because of me. When I was not there, look what was happening here. There were thieves, dacoits, everybody was disturbed, right? And that's why these sages came and put me on this seat of the king. And now when I fixed everything, they are coming and giving me advice that I should worship somebody else. He says, these guys have lost their head. They cannot see this. What was the situation before I became the king, and what is the situation now? How there is peace in the society. Okay, this was a fact. There was not a single crime. No one dared to do anything. Everybody was scared. It's like in the communist countries, people were afraid to do anything. Once when Stalin was the chief in Russia, he went to a restaurant hiding himself, and he was talking to one person and he asked him that, what do you think of Stalin? He wanted to know what is the opinion of the people. So this man looked around and says, I cannot say it here. Let's go out. So he went out and he says, also not here. He went into one alley and then another side, and he came almost to the forest. He says, now I can speak. So he says, yes, what do you want to know? He says, tell me, what do you think of Stalin? He says, actually I like the guy. So even this, he was scared to say. There was so much fear. So he says, look, you people think that this is dharma, this worshipping this god, that god. He says all these gods were existing when I was not the king. Right? Indra was there, Chandra was there, moon god, sun god, god of heaven, Varuna, every god was there, but people were suffering. When I became the king, everything came in order. So I don't understand the logic that now people should worship those guys and not me. He says, what are you talking about? He says, you people are just like unchaste wife. The husband is going outside. In the olden days when wives were not doing jobs, housewives. So poor guy, he is working outside in the field or in some office or company, 8 hours, 10 hours, brings money home. Wife is there nicely. And then she is having an affair with another man, not him, and in love for this husband. He says, you are just like that. What can I say? Avjanantyami mudha nriprupinam ishwaram nanuvindati te bhadram iha loke paratracha. Says that only foolish people, they disregard the Ishvara or God in the form of king. So, as Krishna says that among men I am the king. So he was probably quoting that statement to them, that look what Krishna is saying in the 10th chapter of the Bhakti Yoga. So he says that Nrip Rupinam Ishwaram. He says, who is Ishvara? Ishvara is manifest as king. It's like in the temple, God is present in the Vigraha, in the form of deity. Right? And he is present in the form of Vedas. This is the Shabda Rupa. That is the Murti Rupa. So king is also Ishvara. So he says, I don't understand that how can you be so stupid that you want to worship somebody else and not me who is present right in front of your eyes. He says, Nanu vindanti te badram iha loke paratrika. He says, such foolish people, they will get neither auspiciousness in this life nor in the next. Because in this life, obviously I am going to punish you because you are going against me. And after dying, you will be punished by God because you disregarded him in the form of Ishvara. Right? So just like if you disregard your Guru, then you are committing big offense to God himself. And you will neither be happy here nor after dying. Because you didn't listen to God's instruction that Guru has to be respected. So same way the king also has to be respected, and if you disregard him, you are neither happy here nor after dying. So he says, I don't understand that what has happened to you people. I thought you were learned, scholarly people. And I have to explain to you this simple principle. Ko yajna purusho naam yatra vo bhaktiridrishi bhartri sehvin viduranam yatha jare kiyoshikam. So he's saying that, says that who is this person, this you are saying yajna purusha, and you are showing so much devotion to this man. So I don't understand. You are saying that we have to satisfy Yajna Purusha and we have to please him. Who is exactly he? You say, just like those unchaste women who don't like their own husband and are only talking about their lovers, paramours. So how they can be considered as pious ladies of chaste? Vishnur virancho girisha indro vayur yamo ravihi parjanyo dhanada somha shitiragni rapam patihi ete channicha vibudha prabho varashapayoho dehe bhavanti nipate sarvadeva mayor nipaha. So if someone says that, don't you know that there is Vishnu, there is Brahma, there is Shiva, there are all these devatas, so they have to be offered oblations. So he says, look, Vishnu, Virinchi, Brahma, Girish is Shiva, Indra, god of heaven, Vayu, wind god, Yama, the god of death, Ravi is sun god, Parjanya is rain god, and Dhanada is Kubera, Soma is moon god, Shiti is earth, then fire god is Agni, Apampati is the lord of water, Kubera. He says, Ete Channi cha Vibhuda, these and all other devas, and anyone else who is capable of giving boon and curse, they all exist in the body of king. So just like when Krishna comes, then it is described that all the devas and all the avatars, they exist in his body. So all other avatars, whether it is Vamana, Nrsimha, Rama, Narayana, they all exist in Krishna's body. So he says that like that, every one of them is existing in the body of the king. Because king is called Sarva Devamaya. He is the manifestation of all the devas. So just as Krishna says Sarva Devamaya Guru, that Guru is the manifestation of all the devas. Then he says that king is also the manifestation of all the devas. So what more can I say? He says, please wake up, give up your ignorance, learn the basic fact of happiness, that king is God. That's why he is worshipped like God. He sits on his throne. We do arti to God. Similar arti is also done to the king. They also have these two chamaras, umbrella. These are all symbols of Godhood. When he moves like God. So these specific symbols which you see previously in India, they used to be for God only. Therefore, killing a king is considered as a very heinous crime. Unless the king, of course, himself is on the battlefield. Though it is very sinful. So, he says, Tasman mam karma bhir vipra yajad bhum gatamatsaraha balim chamayyam harata matto neko grubhupaman. So this is his concluding statement. He concludes, says, therefore, O Brahmanas, O sages, just worship me without any envious nature. Says, give up your envy, don't be jealous. I know envy is the great disease of human beings. I don't blame you, you are human beings. But human beings are meant to advance and purify and become free from their lower nature. You are sages, you have dedicated your life for spiritual advancement. Take my advice. Don't be envious of God. I am God, everybody is in me. Yajadhvam gat matsara. Says, worship me, being free from your jealousy. And balimcha mahyam harta. Give all oblations to me. Matto anyo ko grubhupuman. He says, who else is there besides me who is to be offered oblations? He says, there is nobody else. So he concludes very clearly. So vrittidam patim. So Maitreya uvacha ittham vipare mati papiyan anutpatham gataha anuniyamanas tadyachyam nachakre bhrashtamangalaha. So Maitreya said that this fellow, his brain was completely twisted, vipritmati, and therefore he was highly sinful and following the wrong path. He has lost all his piety, and therefore even when the sages spoke to him very humbly, he did not pay any attention to them. So in this way you see that in this particular incident, the Puru Paksha, the opposing arguments have been presented very nicely, because these are the types of arguments which can be given. That why worship God? Here of course he is saying worship me, but someone else can say why we have to worship God, because what is happening here, we don't see any deva doing anything, it is government who is supplying things, or I am working myself. Many times people say why I have to go to temple or anything, I work hard. People say like this, I work hard, I am easy, with that I am buying my food, so why I have to do anything else for anybody? Why I have to think of God, or there is somebody beyond me? So this God is created by human mind, and people could not answer their questions in the beginning, how the creation came, or they were afraid. Then they imagined God. But now we have answers from science, so there is no need to believe in God. This is how they speak. So this is the old Puru Paksha, olden time, how people or an atheist will argue. Yes, he is arguing like that. So his mind was turned completely against any thought of God or anyone else. So iti te satkritaastena dvuja pandita manina bhagnayam bhavya yachayam tasmai vidarshakrudu. So when the sages and the brahmanas, they were insulted by the king who was thinking himself to be a great scholar, and they did not listen to his request, then they became very angry. So previously they were called Gud Manyava, their anger was hidden. Now they manifested it. So what did they do? Hanyatam esha papah prakriti darunaha jivan jagata savvashu kurute bhasmasad dhruvam. So they all together said, kill him, kill him. He is very sinful, and by his very nature he is very cruel. Says that if he lives for more time, he will destroy the whole world. So destroying the whole world does not mean that there will be annihilation of the universe or the earth, but everything what is considered as good or religious or pious will be destroyed. Because then people will become frivolous, they will not have faith in any God or anything, and they will become materialistic, as is the situation in present times. So therefore he said that he should be killed. He is not fit to live. As long as he is living, he is only going to propagate impious lifestyle. So for that reason they decided to kill him. Naim marhatya sadvritto naradeva varasanam yodhi yagyapatim vishnum vinindatyana patrapaha. So he says that he does not deserve to live because he is ill-behaved, and definitely he is not suitable to be the king. Why? Because he is so shameless that he is criticizing Lord Vishnu himself, who is the master of sacrifices, Lord of sacrifice. So this is the important principle, that even if someone has good character, suppose Vena was not troubling anybody and he maintained peace in the society, there was no crime, nobody dared to do any criminal activity, but he was against God. So that one characteristic is the biggest crime, biggest disqualification. But many times we see that people are pious, means they seem moral, ethical, but they don't have belief in God. And not only belief in God, they are against God. And this is a very big disqualification. So this is the disqualification of Vena. Similarly, we will see later on in 10th Canto about this King Jarasandha. So Jarasandha was not even cruel like him, he was very gentle, and he was even doing sacrifices. He was not stopping, he was very much devoted to the Brahmanas and very charitable in disposition, but he was against Krishna. So therefore he was also counted among the Asuras and he was killed. So sometimes this is very bewildering when we hear this type of stories, that how if someone, especially if a person's story we may not be able to understand or really imagine, but when we see in our own life some people who may be like these people, then it becomes very difficult that how we can think that this person is impious or not worthy to associate with or should not even live. So Bhagavatam, which is speaking about the highest dharma, has these stories to instruct us that here, except for complete devotion to Supreme God, nothing else is entertained. There are many other good things, so-called nice behavior, moral, ethical behavior, but they all have no value if they are devoid of bhakti. And this is right from the very beginning, this principle has been set up, and the same principle is spoken again and again in different ways through these stories. That it is only bhakti which is the auspicious thing for the soul, which can bring welfare to humanity, and nothing else. And there are many other things which look like nice and pleasing, but they are not considered as acceptable in Bhagavatam. So this very strong message which comes from these stories, that only bhakti brings fulfillment to the life of living being and nothing else. So sometimes it may sound like fanatical, but it is not. It is the principle of the universe. The universe is set up like that. You have to understand the principle. It's not discriminating against anyone knowingly or unknowingly. It's like there are laws of gravitation, laws of thermodynamics, laws of motion. They work in a particular manner. So this is the law of the universe. The universe is set up like that. And as you cannot do anything against those laws, you can only know them and then act appropriately. In the same way, there is nothing you can do about this law. So therefore this Vena has to be killed. He says that he does not deserve to live, he is shameless, he is criticizing Vishnu himself, who is the very source of the universe. Ko Vainam Parichakshita Venamekam Vrite Shuham Prapti Idrisham Aishwaryam Yadanugraha Bhajanaha. He says that who else but this Vena who is most auspicious, will criticize Lord Vishnu. Why? Because he is actually the source of everything. Even this Vena has become king because of his grace. All this opulence which he has, that is also by God's grace only. He did not create it himself. Nobody has power independent of God. Nobody can create or do anything independent of God. We may for short period, for a brief period, think that I have independent power, but sooner or later it will be taken away, then reality will be known to everyone. So it is better that we recognize that reality while we are living. Otherwise at the time of death we will realize that we don't have anything, no power. So now Vena is thinking like this, but when he becomes old and he has to die, what can he do? Then he cannot say that he is the Lord and Master of this universe. So better to recognize it while we are living. So there are a few more verses, we'll read them tomorrow, how these Brahmanas, they will actually kill him.
It was unanimous.
Hmm?
All the Brahmanas agreed
I
that
agree.
he should be killed. No one took his arguments.
Nobody. So they had actually come with that decision. They have already decided in their meeting that this guy, he has to be removed and he is not going to listen. But they wanted to give him a chance, just in case some good sense comes to his head. Yes.
No, if in this age some saintly people doing the same thing but not with mantras, and they decided to remove somebody like this by weapons, would it be a defect?
No, it will not be defect, but only thing is that they have to face the consequences. You see, at that time the people were with the sages, and all the ministers were also with them, because nobody liked him. But now if you do anything, anybody who is in power will have his followers, like Gaddafi, right? You're reading in the newspaper. So he also has his followers. So if you kill him, then his followers will revolt against you. So if you can take care of that. Good.
When we hear that all the devas and everybody is residing in the body of the guru, or in the body of the king, or in the body of the cow, for example. So then, how we have to understand that because mean that they have these powers in them. I cannot.
You see, when you said they are residing means they are representative, they are doing some function of God. And I said yesterday that Guru is representative of God because he is doing the function of God in the sense of giving knowledge. Otherwise human life is a waste. If you don't have knowledge about God, which Guru gives, then human life is like animal. So in the same way, King, he helps us to realize the goal of human life. So therefore he is worshipable and respectable. Same with the cow. So in that sense. But the main thing is that this knowledge, whether king is God, guru is God, or cow is worshipable, this comes from Shastra. How do we know it? Like he is giving a big lecture about this, right? So how does he know that he is a representative of Vishnu and Brahma and Shiva? This is also from Shastra only. He was not born with this knowledge, nor is that this knowledge is just self-revealed. It is from Shastra. But the same Shastra is also saying that you have to do sacrifice for Vishnu. So that part he is not taking. He is taking one part which is pleasing to him, and the other is actually against. So this is called Ardha Kukkuti Nyaya, that half hen principle, that you like hen, the back side, because it gives egg, but not the front part, which you have to feed. So man had a hen, and she was giving egg every day, but he has to feed her. So he has realized that the egg is coming from the back side, and he has to give the food to the front side. So I thought that why shall I have the front side? I shall only have the back side, and then I will have the egg. So he cut the hen in half, thinking that I just keep the back part and get my egg. But the back part doesn't work without the front part. So he is saying that king is God, that part he wants. The other part, that he should also worship God and do sacrifice, that part he does not want. So when you don't want that part, then this part also does not work. So Praman is Shastra. We have to understand Shastra and know what exactly is the teaching of Shastra. Not take just one part and then apply it. So that's where people make mistake.
And about this protecting Dharma, when somebody is protecting Dharma, Dharma protects the practical person.
Yeah, because if you are pleasing God, then He also takes care of it. It's like if you give plant, if you give water to the plants, then they supply fruits. So that is the principle. You sacrifice water, then they give you fruit.
When it is said that in the beginning sacrifice was created, what is the meaning of
It
this
means
statement?
it was taught to people.
It was taught.
Yeah. Means it was told to people that you live in the society, and it is not that you have to just go to forest, as they say historically that people were living in the forest and go and get your fruits and flower and eat. They were taught that you also do sacrifice before you eat.
What is that meaning of that?
Hmm?
What is the meaning of that, making sacrifice before eating? What is the implication?
Implication is that you know that this food you are getting, it is coming by the grace or blessings of higher beings. So you just remember them. Like if you live in your house and you have children and you are taking care of them, so it is the duty of the children also to acknowledge that you are taking care of them. Suppose you supply them everything, but they don't even acknowledge you. Somebody comes to the house and he says that, how do you get your food? He says, well, food is just coming. Not that my father is arranging for it. So like that, you go to the forest, you pick fruits and flowers. So you think that where is anyone else coming in between? But this forest is created by God. The water, air, sun, all this is not created by human beings. So to acknowledge that is called sacrifice.
Babaji, how do you know, or how do we know that we are pleasing to God? Means, if we are following our dharma, to please God, then how do you know that we are pleasing in a right way God?
Well, number one, if you follow as per the instruction in the Shastra, then that is one thing, that if you do it properly, then you are pleasing. Second thing is that when you are actually pleasing, you also feel pleasure within you. It will also reflect inside you.
For example, you use the example to give water to plant, and then the plants will give you rewards, will give you fruits. But if you give too much water to plant, then the plant will die.
Yeah,
Or
you will also be not
something
happy.
like that. No? How do we know the exact quantity of water? Means to benefit everybody. This is my problem. Means,
So that comes by experience. It's like when you have the plant. So then either you learn from somebody who knows that this much water has to be given, or you learn by experience. So that's why you have a teacher. The teacher knows that this much, in every field you need teacher, right? So in this field also you have teacher who tells you that if you give this much, you do this type of activity, then this is pleasing. Or you have to do experiment yourself, which may take a long time, and still you may not learn, because life is limited. So that's why we need teacher to understand.